Well, here we are on another cold day. It's about 8 o'clock at night and 30 degrees outside. And we're going to do a grill update here and see if we can get the rest of this bottom end taken apart. We've trying to utilize our time a little bit here, so we're going to let our Bondo set up around our nose of our bottom end. Just something to sand off. But we have plenty of time to let it set up, so just leave it there until tomorrow. We filled the top in midsection water tube just to make sure no water gets stuck in there and freezes up and breaks things. Water freezing and breaking things is a bad combination. Made sure we kept all the foam away from these areas because we finally got our fork really nice and loosened up. No problems there. Eventually we'll put this cap on it after it's been painted, and we don't want to put it on now due to the fact that the bolts that go in are stainless steel and they look pretty, so we're just going to leave that off until after everything's painted. And yes, our Outdrives are black, even though they are Volvos. Our boat's candy apple red, and our bottom is black, and a white or off-white Volvo or whatever this green off-white color is would not just look right at all. So ours is black, and I know it's a Merc Cruiser color, but we kind of look at it as like a wolf in sheep's clothing. So we're gonna go ahead and paint it. We would take this off, but it's more of a pain than it's worth. Honestly, a little bit of tape and we're just going to be able to paint it right up. So besides that, it seems like it's ready pretty much to go. It's just late and cold, and we're not going to paint outside today. On our way over here, we did spare you some time. We cleaned up quite a few things. There's our needle bearings which go around our gear that fits on the bottom of the shaft here. They actually sit up like so, up like that, and that's why they got to be greased in, so they're all stuck up, and then when you stick this guy in place it actually holds it, and that's the whole bearing itself. We didn't plan on taking this apart. There's no reason for us to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it just had some gear oil in it, so we took it to our parts washer and flushed it, and it rolls quite well. But from what we have seen, basically you'd have to take this castle lock washer off and this castle nut, and this one should come off, and I believe this one presses off, which shouldn't be too difficult if you really had to come about with something. Another thing we wanted to point out here is this was before, which probably didn't show up so well in one of the earlier videos, is this is the nut that actually holds it on. And as you can see, probably against the white here, one side is flat, and that's because it sits on this washer like so, and that tab on the back side here, or the flat side of it, actually will end up bending up over top, and that locks it in place. So just be careful of that if you'd ever decide to take one of these guys out. And our assorted shims and plugs and things, and even got stuff that actually attaches it to the boat. So, but everything was cleaned up, everything looked good. Our shims are all ready to go. From there, we need to come back to this guy, our bearing case, and really there's not much to take these guys apart. We have, well, let's emphasize first and foremost, again, be extremely careful with your prop cone, or your nut that holds your prop on. The threads on the shaft are extremely fragile and will get pancaked or bent or what have you and turn into junk in a flash. So we're not going to necessarily leave our half of our super special Volvo part on, but we are going to leave the nut on it for super protection, and we suggest you do the same if you're ever going to do anything like this with these guys. And we're going to take this prop collar right off. But get back to disassembly. Basically, this is your bearing case. They call the whole thing a bearing case, but I don't know. It's just this guy right here. Inside of here, there's a bearing that is sandwiched between the end of this aluminum case and this right here, which is held on by these 6 bolts. It's a ring, basically, and it squeezes the two together. And whatever the bearing comes up short is there'll be also shims in there, so the two actually squeeze, but they don't squeeze too much and cause the bearing friction or the binding. So when we take these 6 bolts out, this should come off. Not all the ones in the past, basically, you just kind of hold it up like so, grab it by the ears down here, and just kind of give it a couple taps, and they'll kind of fall out. This one ain't not. I mean, we've already had our experiences with bad experiences with these guys already. So the plan is like I said, to take these guys out, all 6 of these bolts. A lot of times they'll actually come up here and they'll actually hit the backside of the oil slinger until you get it backed off a little bit further, because the studs are actually stuck inside of here. Don't worry about that, that's normal. From there, it's kind of iffy on how the bearing itself will come off. As you can see on this prop shaft here, this is right here is where the bearing rides, and it's a nice smooth spot, but right in front of it there's a nut and another one of these castle washers, and you knock it off, and then the bearing has to come across these threads, and a lot of times it does not want to. Same way with this gear. The gear's locked into these teeth here, and it will slide out, and it's already locked in 99.9% of the time. You'll just give it a few taps and it will slide off. It's the bearing trying to get across these threads is the hardest part. We have a solution. Basically involves Mr. Pipe, and you kind of put Mr. Pipe over top of this, and it fits in nice in between the teeth here and on the flat side of the gear. And since we're not planning on keeping these gears anyway, we're not so panically over worried about it. But we have done it before with other ones that we have decided to keep. We now also have a full-size press, or it was a small foot-size press, and then we supersized it with some metal from Home Depot. So we may not go that route this time, but that's an option. And there's a lot of options you can use. You can use pump jacks, all kinds of different things. All you really have to do is put pressure on A and B. If you can squeeze it between, I don't know, 2 posts, you know, it'll be fine. Because it's not going to take that much to get it off. And honestly, later on, you'll see that where just a little heat and a little cold working with you makes them almost fall together so easily that you can't even, you wonder why you struggled so much. So we're going to go ahead and knock these guys out, get these bolts out, try to tap it a few times, see if it'll come apart, and see if we can actually get it taken done. And then we have to clean it up. I mean, imagine, look at all this salt on here. That's why it was a bit hard to get out. So we got a lot of cleaning to do, but off we go. So here's what we got. Wasn't so bad. I thought maybe the pipe got jammed up on the shaft, but actually it was just kind of because I was trying to take it out crooked. But basically what we got here is, like I was talking about, is our bearing case, which of course there's a shim in there somewhere. There it is. And basically this sits in here like so. I don't want to drop it in because it definitely will wedge in place. But that sits in there. And this guy sits on top of it and locks it in place. That's what that shim is in there for. So you got to have that. And that is where, right there, if your prop shaft seal leaks, that's that dog right there, which is on the back side. And this is the only way to get to it. So you have to come all the way this way just to get to that one seal, as far as I know. Okay, so we have our gears, which is our monster gear, and we will not be using it. We have our bearing, of course, which really feels good. It's just really dirty. So that's where we stand now. It's got a lot of washing to do, and we'll get it cleaned up. We got to get these rings off, these rubber rings, and then we got to take it out and do a lot of wire brushing and such. And then we shall go once again to attack you. And again, we're not having nearly as much luck as we had with the rest of it, because as bad as the rest of it is, it's pretty salvageable. But that one right there, we've spent a couple days on, and still haven't had much luck. So our plan is to get everything cleaned up, and then the next step is to get some gears together.